Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about colour and particularly lichen, because as you can see these are colours that I really love, and I think it can be a bit overwhelming when you've got to choose colours for a colour scheme. So I'm going to take you through some tools and things that will help you do that. Most of us who make art or plant in gardens or like fashion or interior design, I think you would all say that colour is the thing that's most important. It's what catches your eye first, and as well as appealing to our eyes, it always has a really strong emotional pull as well. That's why nearly everybody can say they've got a favourite colour. And if you look at the history of colour, and there's a rather wonderful book called The Secret Lives of Colour that I'll link below. There's so much history and culture, and even the sort of more esoteric names. They show just how important it's been to us through centuries, and how in the early days when lapis lazuli, which is what they used for blue in early paintings, it was so prized. It was really hard to get, and it showed that you had great wealth if you could use it. So colour and the colours we choose is just kind of bound up with our personalities and our status and everything else, and it's such a fascinating area. Now, I'm not going to talk about colour theory. There are lots of places you can find about that. I'll just say a couple of things. That when people talk about complementary colour, that just means if you look at a colour wheel, you'll see that it's on the opposite side. And all you need to know about that is that if you want to make a colour really pop and look really intense, you use the colour that's opposite on the wheel, and that will just make it really pop. If you want a quieter colour scheme, you would use what they call analogous colours. So if you look on the colour wheel, there'll be just the ones that you find sort of either side of the one you're interested in. If you're really interested, you can pursue that, but that's not what this is about. I want to talk about how colour can be very personal to you, how you can choose it for colour schemes, and also the tools it can use these days to help you choose a palette. And we're so lucky because nowadays we've got so many apps and things on our phones and websites and software that can not only help you but actually make it really fun as well. So I want to show you some of those. It's so easy to be overwhelmed when you're trying to pick colours, so I want to show you a few tips and tricks and tools that will make that easier. First of all, I'd say gravitate to things that you just like naturally. You could have a board, you could have it on your iPad or your phone or your computer. There are lots of ways you can do it. I like using an app called Freeform, which is an Apple thing, because it works just like a mind map, and you can bring pictures in and from anywhere or documents. But there's so many things like that. You might just keep a particular album in your photos section where you put colours that you like. A lot of people use Pinterest, and they'll keep a board and they'll move colours to that. If you want a really simple way to get some colours from an image, either your own photograph or one you've saved, you can use the Canva colour generator, and that's completely free. You just have to upload your image, and then Canva will pick out the 4 main colours. So that's a really good way to get a very simple colour scheme with a good range of tonal values. And then you can save that to a palette and use it in whatever project you've got planned. If you look below the swatches, you'll see something called a hex code. You can save that and use it on any software to get that exact colour again. The graphic software that I use the most is this one called Procreate, and I'd really recommend it. It's just a one-off payment, and you can do so much with it. You don't have to draw because you can trace things, you can build up lots of layers and do all sorts of effects. And if you upload a picture or just something that you've saved from the internet, it will analyse it and pick out a whole range of colours. So with this picture of the lichen, you might think there aren't that many shades, but look how many it's managed to pick out, and then you can refine it and choose, be more selective, choose just the ones you want and save those into a palette. You can then draw or paint with them, use them from text or backgrounds or whatever you want to do. If you just want to pick out a few colours, you can use the eyedropper tool, and where it lands, it will save that as a colour again, and you can save it into your palette. It even gives the colours individual names, and you can name the whole palette as well. You can zoom right in to get just that particular colour that you're after. And although I don't think you have to stick to rules, it's a useful thing to know that a good range of tones helps. Always have some pale, some mid-tones and some dark tones, and that will give you a satisfying, cohesive look. And this last one I want to show you is Adobe Capture, which again you can use for free with some of the features. And this one, as you can see, it's really fun. So with your camera phone or your iPad phone, you just have to hold it up and it will pick out colours live as you move the camera around. You can see how it's picking out the red from that bag and the green from the tissue box. And as with the other two apps, you can just use it in the more conventional way of uploading a photograph. This time it saves 5 colours. You can probably change that setting somewhere. These things usually have variables. And again, it's picking out a nice tonal range. Just save the palette. It does ask you if you want to publish it. That just means it's available for other people to use as well, but you don't have to do that. You can give it a name and then you can use it for other things within this app, and you can make all sorts of patterns with kaleidoscopes and tiles. There's lots of fun with this one. Or you can use it across other Adobe software, or if you want to use it in another project, again I'd say save the hex codes. So that's just a short introduction to some of the apps that I use. There are lots more, but I return to these ones again and again. Whenever you're doing something visual, like posting on Instagram, designing a website, deciding on a planting scheme in your garden, putting some flowers together in an arrangement, or putting clothes together, you're making decisions about colour. So even if you don't think you've got a very good eye for colour, you probably have. And as I said before, you're definitely going to have your favourites. Now, I return again and again to lichen-y colours, which I know seems a little bit odd. And I'm particularly thinking about that at the moment because I'm doing a series called Capturing Winter. And you see all the wonderful colours in lichen. Much more at this time of year, just because branches are bare, the leaves are fallen down, and also in the UK we're having a very wet winter, so there's a lot of it. And lichen is a really fascinating subject. There's so many species, and that's something I'd quite like to look into, but I mostly just like it for the aesthetic value. I like picking twigs and using them in dried flower arrangements, and I've also used them, as you can see, in dyeing. So this is some cotton that I've dyed with Procreate dyes, and I've also, when I was coming up with some colours for my ribbon collection, actually lichen was one of the first ones I chose. And the colours in it, it's the yellowy greens and the sort of grey blues, as you can see, are favourite colours of mine, and I love the combination together. I also like the fact that they can be subtle, so not very saturated, or a bit more intense when you've got more pigment or more saturation. And it's so easy to find. I found these on my dog walk this morning. I've got some twigs that I came across a few weeks ago, and even in my own garden I've got a birch tree, and because it's been quite windy, a lot of the twigs have come down and they've got the same colours. So they're mostly kind of grey blues and yellowy greens. If you want more fancy names, you could say it's Odinil and Chartreuse. That they're covered in that book as well. I hope that's inspired you to feel more confident about using colours, and do ask any questions, and I hope you'll join me again soon.